All right, everyone, Daniel Ramsey here. I'm super excited because today we're going to continue that series where we're talking about low inventory, and I got a chance to talk with Brad and bring him on. And what we're doing is a little, what we call R&D, rip off and redistribute, where Brad is actually going to share a proven money generating system that he's been using for years and that he actually sells to his coaching clients. He's going to give us not only what he does, but the details, like a step-by-step breakdown of how it all works. And then he's going to talk about how a virtual professional, one of our folks, can actually juice that process, meaning create more revenue, right? And so Brad, let me just introduce him real quick because we've had him on a couple times, but this guy has been involved in 2,400 transactions and sold those homes as a broker agent. And then he's been involved in over 5,000 transactions in his entire career, where he's done something called wholesaling, which is what he coaches people to do. So if you're listening right now, this is a little bit of a different spin. I believe it's an opportunity for people right now who are suffering around the country because they just don't have enough listings, just to add more revenue. And I used to joke that November and December were my best months in real estate because everybody else was taking them off. You know, they'd go on vacation and just disappear. And it's similar right now. The people who are complaining about inventory being low and not having enough listings simply aren't willing to do the work. And so Brad's going to share something that you can do right here, right now to generate revenue. So Brad, thanks for being here, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. I love being on this show.
Yeah. So okay. So most of our folks, we have about 1,200 active clients right now. Most of them are going to be listening and watching to this conversation. Can you give us a brief description of what wholesaling is and why you believe a real estate agent or broker could add that to his practice to juice revenue?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a lot of realtors in my program, and I love dealing with realtors because I was just talking with one earlier today, one of my students. And when you spend $1 in marketing, you can go even further with it because not only can you possibly get the cash contract to wholesale it, but you can also get a listing on it. So absolutely beautiful thing. What is wholesaling? Wholesaling is just you go out and you get a property under contract, and then you flip it. You actually assign the contract to a cash buyer for a higher price. Last year, our average was $37,000. We did a wholesale deal I have this as a case study, which we can give away at any point, but we have a case study where I walk through the entire process of how we made $33,750 on a townhouse in Chantilly, Virginia earlier this year. And Dan, we never bought it. We never renovated it. So, your listeners who are realtors should ask themselves how many listings or how many buyers would they have to work with to do, $33,750. And guess what my investment on that was? It was a $200 earnest money deposit. Yeah. So wholesaling is an incredible way. And here's something that I know all realtors will agree with me. What's the one thing a realtor wants more than anything? They want an appointment. They want to sit across the table from the seller, right? So if you send out your postcard and it says, I want to list your house, it's pretty difficult sometimes to get that appointment. If you send out a postcard that says, John or Sally, I want to buy your house, and you get them on the phone, well, John, I've got to come out there, obviously, to give you an offer on your house, but tomorrow at noon work. Sure. Now you've got that appointment. Now you can go in there and hopefully 6, 7, 8 times out of 10, you're going to walk away with a listing agreement or purchase contract.
Yeah, I accidentally did this once. I accidentally sold a property. I was in contract to buy like an investment property, and it was a single residence house, and I was going to lift it and then put a unit below and the city, and then the seller changed their mind midway through the contract. And I spent money on architects, spent time with the city and all of this, and the seller was like, hey, we want to just do it ourselves. What happened is they liked my design and they saw the value that I was adding. So rather than argue or complain, I just said, sure, I can give you my plans. I can give you the process that I was going to go through. Would you be willing to pay me $10,000? What was great is I walked away from the transaction, made 10 grand and put the money onto another another deal. And so anyways, I accidentally
So
wholesale.
you never close on the property, right?
No, no.
And that's wholesaling, folks. Someone else steps in your place to execute on the contract, and you get the difference between what you agreed to with the seller and the new buyer. You get that in call it a finder's fee, assignment fee, whatever you want to call it. It's great. It's money.
Yeah. Okay. So good. So if you're listening right now, one thing about our webinar series that's different is that we want the interaction. We want you guys to make comments. We want you to ask Brad. Again, he's done this 5,000 times. Like, there's a process. What I also like about bringing a guy like Brad on is he's created an executive team, and his company, Home Express Buyers.
Let me clarify that. Express Home Buyers has done 2,500 transactions, meaning fix and flips, wholesales, buying rentals. I actually am a realtor, and in 2008 I started a Keller Williams team, and by 2010 I was the #1 Keller Williams team in North America. So if you lump in all of those transactions with all the transactions that Express Home Buyers has done, I've done over 5,000 transactions. There's not a lot of people that have done over 5,000 transactions. So I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to just tell you I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've learned a ton, and I've made a ton of money. So I can help you avoid the mistakes and tell you, hey, you should be doing this or you shouldn't be doing this because it doesn't work.
Right. Well, that's good. Okay, so perfect. So thanks for that clarification. Let's talk, what is the proven system? Let's walk through for everybody. And again, comments, questions, Brad's here. We love this kind of interaction. Brad, talk to us about the system that you've put together that you think a real estate person can use to generate more listings in a low end market.
So the mail call money system, it is a system that allows you, I tell you in great detail, how you actually go into ListSource, how you pull a list of, and this depends on what you're targeting. For investors, we want to target people with equity because Daniel, you couldn't have made that 10 grand if the person owed 200,000, it was worth 200,000, right? So they've got to have equity. So I teach you how to go into ListSource and how to pull a list of, high equity people. If you're a realtor and you specialize in short sales, not sure why you would want to, but there are people out there because I know what a hassle those are. If you did, you could pull a list of people who had zero equity and you could start marketing to them. So you get a list from ListSource. And by the way, with my system, instead of paying 18 cents what you'd pay right now if you literally went to ListSource and bought them, we give you a discount of 3.5 cents through my provider. We also give you the ability to send postcards with the cost of the actual list, the postage, the printing, and everything for about 40 cents or maybe even a half a cent under 40 cents. So it's amazing. I have a student in Richmond who literally said, I'm saving thousands and thousands of dollars a year just from your system. So anyway, you get the list, you start mailing them, and then you take the exact same list and you run it through, and I provide this in the system, you run it through data providers, and they'll give you, phone numbers and email addresses. Are they going to be 100% right? Nope. Are there going to be enough right that you can make a lot of money? Absolutely. And then you start calling these people and hey, I just sent you a postcard, or, you don't really even have to send a postcard, but you could just call them and say, hey, I'm just interested. When are you looking to sell your house, or whatever's comfortable to you? I actually give you a script that we've used over the years that works great. So that's it in a nutshell. Is we teach you how to go pull the records for a huge discount, all the data providers that you need, the script that you need, and then you just have to go out there and execute.
Okay. Well, let's break it down. The ListSource, like I want people to, because I don't think real estate people do this. Like I know they don't. And I'm not, you're like one of the only guys that is doing this on a big scale basis. So that ListSource, like you go in and you just pull, you do by zip code or by a town or a city, or like break that down, because you've done it 100 million times. We've not.
Yeah, so I'm glad you said that, because I was actually thinking about that before this call. I was thinking, what do most realtors do? They usually pick a farm area and then they just mail all the homeowners in that farm area. That's okay. It's kind of small scale.
You know what we call that? We call spray and pray. It's bad marketing. It's not targeted and it's expensive. And you know what I do with all of those? I throw them in the trash. I never look at them. I never ever look at the, just listed, just sold. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I throw them away. I don't register the person. I don't register what their value proposition is. So I like what your spray and pray is the wrong way to do it. You're talking about looking for equity and looking for probable buyers or
Yeah,
sellers.
absolutely. Yeah. So how I pick an area for the investment purposes is, and I teach you how to do this in ListSource. You can actually go see where most of the cash transactions are happening if you want to target those areas. Um, if you don't, then what you need to do is you need to look at areas where the average sales price is about 20% below, or the average sales price of the area is 20% below the entire metro area. So let me make that give you an example. So in the DC area, our average sales price is somewhere around, say $450,000. Well, you've got areas like McLean, Virginia, Chevy Chase, Maryland, where the average house price is closer probably to $5, 6, 7, $800,000. You don't want to be marketing in areas like that. In the DC area, you've got Woodbridge, Virginia. You got Manassas, Virginia. You've got Capitol Heights, Maryland. Those are the areas where the prices are lower than the average of the 400,000 across the board. Those are the areas you want to focus on, and then you want to go after high equity. If you want to become really niche, you go after lists like probate, divorce, inheritance, tax delinquency, a really good one. So, code violations, all those things.
Vacant homes, investor owned,
Yeah,
like
absentee owners, vacant homes. You can do all of that. But with ListSource, you can actually get, how long have they owned their house? I think it's the average person sells or buys a house every 7 years. So, again, do you want to be marketing people who just bought their house a year ago about listing? You're going to most likely be wasting your money. And as the realtor market gets tougher and tougher with all the competition and new technology, we as realtors have to find new ways to get new listings. And it might mean that you need to spread your, market area. You've heard a lot over the past, focus on one little area. Well, I tell you, if we would have focused on one little area, we wouldn't have done 5,000 transactions. We service the entire DC metro area, South Florida. We're actually doing deals now across the country because here's the beautiful thing. We wholesaled the property, and we've done many, but I'm going to give you an example. We wholesaled a property in Tampa, Florida. We made $38,000, Daniel. We never saw the house. We never, ever went to the house. It was all done virtually. So what I teach my students that can be done in your local market can be done anywhere in the United States. So you want to move and be a neighbor of Daniel's in California, you can. It works there. It works in Tuscaloosa. It works in Maine. It works everywhere.
Okay, and so let's break down. We pull the list. You're looking for high equity people, and then what's the next step? Like, are you mailing out to them, and what's in the mailer?
You literally take the list, you send it to the mail house, and you tell the mail house, hey, I'm making this up, here's 10,000 addresses. I don't want to send those all out at one time because I couldn't handle it, or 1,000, whatever. Let's break those up over the next 4 weeks, and then let's do that same exact mailing for the next 6 months. Because guys, if you are going to send 1 or 2 or 3 mailings, you're completely wasting your time. In 2005, my sister was a stay-at-home mom in Charlottesville, and I didn't even know ListSource existed. I don't even know if it did exist then, but of course there were places where you could buy data. I didn't know that. So what did she do? And I had no money. I had negative $80,000 net worth. She would sit home and she would search the Charlottesville, Albemarle tax records for people who had owned their house for more than 20 years and didn't live there. And so I got a call one day from a lady who said, I just got your 7th letter. I wasn't planning on selling my house, but since you kept mailing me, I guess I'll sell it. Well, she had tenants in there because we were going after absentee owners. Right. Well, the tenants weren't paying. I got the tenants out. I literally cleaned the place up. I listed it, and I made like $42,000.
Right. I love that.
Hey. I wish I would have known about wholesale. Well, I didn't really think wholesaling was cool back then. I thought, like the smart people bought houses and fixed them up. And now I've learned after being burned by so many renovations, no. Wholesaling is like the way to go.
Right. Okay, we have a question. Edward, do you have any experience, Brad, with the Canadian market?
Median?
No, experience with the Canadian market, meaning does this system work in Canada?
It is so unbelievable how many people in Canada have asked me that. And so I've heard varying things. I heard, in places like Vancouver, it's nearly impossible. But Vancouver is its own beast. I mean, the what's going on in that real estate market over the last couple of years is, so far beyond rational. It's scary.
Yep.
So I went on a Facebook group of wholesaling houses, and I asked that question, and I got linked with a nice gentleman who it might have been Regina was the area of Canada or city, and he says he wholesales. That's his full-time job. So yes, it can be done in Canada. Can I teach you exactly how to do it, and can I teach you the ins and outs of the laws and regulations? Sorry, I can't. But I did find people who said yes, it does work in Canada.
Right. Well, what we're talking about is a system, and the differences might be like how you find out where the equity is, what your list sources are, what the rules are to call, because the next piece that we're going to be talking about is once you get the data, what do you do with it, right?
Right.
What's the next steps in order to generate? And you said something that I really like. I have a really good friend who's a flipper wholesaler in our area. Like he's got little kids, I got little kids, they swim together in the pool. What he does is he always offers at the wholesale table an offer to buy the house at the price that he can do. And then he also offers to list the house, and put it on the market and expose it to the market and get a higher price. This one, their one offer, it's like cash now, close in 5 days, we'll take it as is, you get to go away and live a great life. But the list, he just keeps getting listing after listing because he's got so many options when it comes to selling.
The only advice I'd give on that, Daniel, is that I wouldn't walk in. If it was me, I wouldn't walk in and say, "Here are your two options," because it's, "Hey, I can buy your house for cash for, I'm making this up, $150,000, or I can list it for $225,000." It may take a couple months. Most people are going to go with the $225,000. What I would do, and what we used to do when we had the realty arm wrapped around and we were doing both, is we would go in and we would say, "Hey, this is going to be our offer." We would let them answer. If they laughed at us and said, "That's a ridiculously low offer," we would blame it on our investors, which was 100% legitimate. "Hey, this is what our investors require us to purchase that at. I realize it's lower than you were expecting, but I can get you that $225." And then I think your chances of getting the cash offer is going to go up a lot higher if you don't throw out both options.
Gotcha. Okay, well that makes sense, and I'm glad for the advice there. Okay, so what is in your mailer that you send out? We've gone over how to get the information and who to target. Likely buyers every 7 years. People who have high equity. I like to call them the 12 Ds. I have like distress, divorce, death, disability. Like I made a list for a friend he's in Oregon, and we're playing with it one day. But once you get the list, you send it to the mail house. You said you chop it up and do like 100 a week or something. Just spread it out because you don't want a bazillion calls.
Just chop it up in 4. Just mail them weekly.
Right. And then what do you mail them? Like, I want to buy your house. That's it?
Yeah, no, it's a postcard. It's got language about how we can make the process easy, and it doesn't matter what the condition of the house is and how many houses we bought. And, it's got some scarcity. Hey, we can't buy a ton of houses in your neighborhood. Call us now, that type of thing.
Okay. And so it's a little like, hey, this is who we are. Like, I want to break it down for our audience. So this is who we are. This is why you should work with us. This is why we're better than our competition. And there's a clock on this offer. Give us a call.
Yeah. And you know what? Not to get sidetracked, but when you have a website, you should answer 3 questions within 5 seconds, and you just kind of hit those. What is it that you offer? Yep. What is the benefit to your services? And how can I get what you offer? I bet you if all the folks on this call went to their website right now and said, could they answer that in 5 seconds? I bet you 85% of those people couldn't. So just another extra tidbit, use what Daniel just said, what I just said. And when we're done on the call, go look at your website and see if it answers those 3 questions in 5 seconds. If it doesn't, you're losing people. So change your website so that you get more conversions.
You know what I hate too? What drives me so freaking crazy, because I see it and I'm in the world. I'm a broker. We have all these clients. I love what we do. And I'll drive down the road and I'll see a billboard with a realtor just branding himself, like just branding, right? They're cross their arms and like, call me if you need to sell, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like the worst marketing ever. So I love what you said.
L- let me make a point on that, Daniel, because you're so right. The greatest companies in the world talk about what they can do for the customer and not why they're so great.
That's
And
right.
we didn't realize that probably until the last 3 or 4 years. When someone calls to get their lawn mowed, when someone buys any product, service or product, they have an external need and an internal need. The external need is, I need my lawn mowed, but that's not why they call you. That's not why they pick up the phone. They call you because of their internal need, and their internal need is they're having dinner guests over, and they're afraid to be embarrassed, or their HOA is going to fine them. So as marketers and salespeople, you need to talk to the internal and not the external. And the face on the sign saying, contact me, they don't care. What they care about is, what can you do for them? So when you market, don't talk about I. Get rid of I off your website. Get rid of me. Talk about you. Here's what I do for you.
Yep. I love it. Well, and we use that 100%. What does MyOutDesk do? We help growing companies scale with virtual professionals. That's what we do. That's why we're here. That's what we want to help people with. And so I'm with you. We're in sync. Okay, so we've got the numbers. We send out the postcards. What would you do next?
So we've got the numbers. We've got the addresses. We've sent out the postcards. I would start a call campaign. So I would take those lists and I would run them through the data providers. There's one alternative that's super, super cheap, 3 cents a record. And it's gonna, you pay for what you get. You're gonna get a lot of numbers and a lot of email addresses, but you're not gonna get all that you want to. Then if you want to get even more in depth and get more detail, then you can run them through a higher priced, higher level skip tracing service. And then you just get on the phone and do what you do best. Talk to them, build rapport, focus on what their internal problem is and how you can solve it.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Like, let's say I have an area and I've found a spot and I want I've got 4,000 people in that spot. What would you do? What would you do in terms of, like, how often would you call them? What would you say? What's your offer? Like, you've done this so many times. We just don't know. So
yeah, so I just had this conversation. I mentioned the realtor I spoke with earlier, and I was telling him. He said, "Well, should I begin making the cold calls?" And I said, "You know what? I think you should. I think you should make however many 1,000, 2,000 calls, so you can understand how it works. And then I would go hire a virtual assistant, and you're basically." Just calling them saying, "Hey, are you interested in selling your house?" Or, "When are you going to be selling your house?" And then depending on what they say, you just go into, we're going to provide our full-blown script on how to do this. Build rapport, hit the pain points, figure out, what's the condition of their house? Are they motivated? Do they have equity in their house? So, once you learn how to do that, then create a little system and, send it off to a VA. That's, I think we were talking a couple of days ago and I told you the story about my student. I got a superstar student here in Virginia, and he did his mailings. He had done some deals before. He broke up with his partner. And when he was doing the deals before with his partner, he was the guy going out to the house. He had nothing to do with marketing. So he's like, no problem, I can do this on my own. So in December, he spent thousands of dollars doing mailings. And he literally told me, he goes, "Brad, I thought I put the wrong phone number down because I didn't get any calls." He goes, "I joined your coaching program January 12th. I did exactly," he was a former Marine or Navy. And he's just good at taking orders. So he just followed my system. And he went from nothing to getting a deal a week for 10 straight weeks. Then, a couple weeks went by, and this business sometimes is like this. Things got really slow. So, to his credit, instead of saying, "Woe is me," he's like, "Well, I got to find something else, something different." So what did he do? He called MyOutDesk. He got a full-time VA. He gave them the script. He said, "This is how you do it." They started calling, and he's crushing it now. In May, he had his biggest month ever. He got 8 deals under contract.
Yeah. And zero investment in terms of getting those contracts. He doesn't have to list them. He's just looking for buyers and wholesaling. So it's easy. And what I love about, okay, so I've got to break this down. So many people think I'm going to hire a virtual professional, a VA, and then I'm going to give them the script, and then I'm going to wash my hands and see what they do. I can't tell you how many times that has happened to us, where you're like, wait a minute, what? You're gonna give them a script, you're going to give them some numbers and say, go call, and then they're supposed to call you when there's success. That's not how it works. Like, it never works like that. And your guy, he did it for a time frame. He perfected the model. He helped, I'm guessing he like coached the virtual professional into an understanding about what he's trying to do. Like, talk about those mistakes that people make.
So he got lucky, Daniel, because honestly, I don't know that he spent a lot of time doing it. He probably made a couple of phone calls and then he threw them right into the fire. And it just happened to be that you guys provide great VAs and he got a great one and he just started crushing it. Now, he didn't just sit back. He's doing weekly call reviews. He's coaching her. He's doing that type thing. You made a point earlier about how he got these 8 deals and he didn't have to have any money. Well, it's true and it's not true. Because while I believe wholesaling is the best way to go in real estate, it's not necessarily the best way to build long-term wealth. Buy and holds are. So his partner, his new partner now actually owns a construction company. So everything I'm telling you guys can lead to listings. It can lead to wholesales. It can lead to buy and holds. It can lead to, if you just love fix and flips and your cousin is a contractor or you're a contractor. So everything I'm teaching you is really just about how to find motivated sellers. Right. Who makes the most money in the real estate business? It's who can find motivated sellers, the best. So that's the beautiful thing about this program is in the system is once you get them, you decide what to do with it. Listing, buy and hold, fix and flip, wholesale, it's up to you.
Right. Okay. So I like where you're going. So your guy hired one of our people and they called and they're just saying like, what's your plans with your home? When do you think you might be interested in selling? That's the call. Now, what we found is some mistakes are made by our clients in the handoff, like knowing when there's an actual deal there, knowing when they should go to the property. Cause I feel like you could waste a lot of time, kissing a lot of ugly babies, right? This house there's no money in it, but I went out and spent 2 hours with the seller and they're not really interested in selling. Like, how do you know when to go?
Yep, that's a great point because a lot of new investors waste a lot of time going to places that aren't deals. However, if you're a realtor, you got the ability to get the listing. So you probably do want to go to most of them. You want to make sure that they are motivated in some way, shape, or form. Not, hey, I want to sell in the next 6 months. Well, then don't come out and visit them. Here's what you do. You have the virtual assistant when they get to a point in time when you've trained them and you're comfortable enough is have them set an appointment. And then you, as the owner of the company or the realtor, you're going to call that seller back to confirm. And the virtual professional is going to tell them that. They're going to say, hey, John, Sally, Daniel are going to be calling you 24 hours before to confirm. Please take their call. It's really important. They've got some important things to discuss about the appointment. When they call back, then they just verify everything. Oh, I see your house is worth, I see you're looking for this price. You owe this much on it. And you're looking to sell. And then if the person's like, no, I didn't say any of that. Like I was just, you sent me a postcard and I wanted to get an offer. I have nowhere to go. I don't want to sell. Then you as the professional are going to say, hey, let me call you back in a couple months when you're closer and you're not going to waste your time.
Okay. So there's a call to confirm the motivation and the time frame prior to going out and actually spending time with the potential seller.
I like that method better. You can also have the virtual professional actually just hand it off, but why not? I'd rather have the appointment and cancel the appointment than hand it off and then you've got to chase them down for that appointment again.
Right. Okay. And so do you share a Google Calendar with your virtual professional or is there particular times that you block out for this or how do you do that?
So, I mean, that you can skin that cat 1,000 different ways. I mean, there's scheduling software, schedule once, there's 10 different scheduling softwares. You can block out time. You can say that, there's nothing more important than appointments. So as long as I don't have an appointment on the books, then schedule it and I'll move whatever. So that's just, that's the easy part. You just determine what you like best there.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. What are the big oops or mistakes people make that when they coach with you, you stop them from making? Meaning you've got a proven system. This is just one of several of your lead generation systems to wholesale properties. But what are some of the mistakes that you help people realize to not make?
So last week I had on my podcast a husband and wife couple from upstate New York. They operate in a relatively small market, Albany,
Hmm.
and he came. He's hilarious. He came with a laundry list of, Brad, you said you do this, 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 and this, and they're specific. And I'll tell you them. They may not relate, but he said everything that you've told me to do has led me to generate $261,000 in wholesale fees in the last 8 weeks. 8 weeks, this guy's generated $261,000 in wholesale fees. He goes, Brad, that is more than I made in wholesale fees all of last year. So he was TV advertising, and his company name, I don't remember off the top of my head, but let's just say John Buys Houses. So when the TV commercial ran, I went and Googled John Buys Houses, and his competitor came up. So he didn't even know to get a Google AdWords campaign up and running with his brand.
Right.
So he was basically providing leads to his. So that was one thing. The second thing was he was renovating a lot of houses and didn't know a better way. And he was losing, pulling his hair out. So I told him all about wholesaling. And now he switched his model and he's like, oh my God, the freedom and stuff. He had a lot of people issues. People issues are one of the biggest problems that I see across the board in all businesses. You either don't have the right people or you don't have the people, period. You don't have a seat that you need to have filled. Right. And as business owners, we get so busy that you just, bring in anyone that you shouldn't. If you truly want to grow and scale and you're going to hire someone, you got to take the time. And then probably, the last thing I did for him, and I do for a lot of my coaching students, is we're masters at lead generation. We are generating, it's crazy how many leads. I think last month we generated over 2,000 leads nationwide. So I tell them how to crank up their lead machine.
Right. Okay. So what I like about wholesaling too is I'm a contractor in a previous life because I was a real estate guy developing, and dealing with contractors is one of the hardest parts about real estate. Whether you're a realtor who's trying to add value by making sure the house is taken care of, or you're a realtor and you're trying to add value by upgrading some people or some piece of the business. So I love that wholesaling removes that headache from you. We're talking about getting the listing or getting the wholesale contract. How do you get rid of it? Like, how do you help people? Like, because I just happen to know somebody who my accidental wholesale.
Yeah.
Know somebody, like the seller was like, but how do you get rid of them? Like,
so
what's the contract?
It's an awesome question. And it's a question I get a lot. And people are like, well, what if I go out there? Because people are always looking at what will go wrong instead of looking at what will go right. And I'm guilty of this sometimes too. But what they'll say is, well, what if I do all this and then I can't sell the property? And let me tell you, selling the property is the easiest part of the transaction, because if it's a deal, it's going to freaking sell. Now, if you follow my system, then it should always be a deal. If you follow how to estimate repairs and how to estimate the after repair value, but you guys as realtors are going to have a really good understanding of how to estimate the after repair value. Right. I can easily teach you how to do the repairs, how to estimate the repairs. That's way easier than you think. And here's there's 110 ways you can find cash buyers: Craigslist, Facebook ads, Facebook groups, Connected Investor, Bigger Pockets. The list goes on and on and on. eBay, you can put on eBay. The best that we've seen, and your listeners are going to love this, is realtors who have done cash transactions. Every realtor will have access to that. So you get a house under contract in 123 Maple Street. You do, in your MLS, you do a 5-mile radius search of agents who have sold properties to cash buyers in the last 12 to 18 months. Hey, John, the agent, this is Sally. I see that you sold a house on 128 Maple Street last year to a cash buyer. I've got one right around the corner. It's off market and it's a screaming deal. Do you think your buyer might be interested? Well, do most investors only buy one house? Not like a homeowner, they buy multiple houses. So it's typically, yes, can we go take a look at it? And then you have an open house. The second question I get a lot is, well, do you pay them? Mm-hmm. Here's what we tell them. We say we'd be happy to pay you, but we're looking at all offers on a net basis. So if you bring me a $100,000 offer and you want to make 3%, so the net's 97, and Bobby over here brings me a $100,000 offer, I'm going to go with Bobby. So it's up to you. Number one, either have the buyer pay your transaction, pay your commission up front, because guess what? You're bringing them a killer deal, right? They should pay you. Or number two, just make sure that you get the listing on the back end after they renovate the property. Now you've gone from $100,000 potential listing to a $200,000. So you just get, your 3% commission, or if you can find a buyer, 6% commission or 5, whatever it is, on a $200,000 house instead of a $100,000 house.
I love that. What you're saying is if you structure the deal and it is a deal, you won't have a problem. It's when it's not a deal.
When it's not a deal, then you have a problem. But if you follow my system, because we've done this, thousands of times, if you follow the system and you get it right, you're going to sell it like hotcakes. I mean, this is a true story. We got a property under contract yesterday in Alexandria townhouse, and I looked at the numbers. It was a foreclosure situation. So my acquisition manager comes in, he goes, "Hey, if we can't sell this house, will you or your partner buy it, or your wife?" And I'm looking at the numbers. I'm like, "Gosh, this looks pretty good. Yeah, I probably would buy it." He puts it out there. I see the email come up. I don't even have a chance to send it to my wife because she's a realtor to start comping because I was too busy. And he comes back in. He goes, "Oh, I sold it to one of your students." Meanwhile, I'm replying to a Facebook message of someone saying, "Hey, I want that deal." And he comes in, I go, "Oh, my student just," he was like, "I didn't know that was your student." He was like, "You got some ballers for students. You got a lot of students who are doing a lot of deals." And I go, "Yeah," and I had someone else just say they wanted. He goes, "Yeah, her and 10 other people." So that's my point. Like if it's a deal, like sit back and relax. That's the easy part. It's finding the deals that's harder than getting rid of the deals.
That's right. I love that. Okay, good. And so in the notes, we're going to put the link to get not only the proven system. So a couple things. I think we're almost ready to wrap it up. This is a short one. We're 30 minutes in. So we've got the proven system to generate revenue, step-by-step process with service providers. So again, I don't like people coming on here and saying, I've got an idea and I want to share it. Brad's got a proven system with the service providers, with the process already outlined for you, call scripts, who to use to mail, who to use to pull the data, how do you get them into a call action kind of situation. And you call it mail call money system. So we've got that. Normally it's $297. Brad is giving it away for anybody who wants a virtual professional. You can go on the landing page, register. We already had 2 people say they wanted to meet with you, Brad. I was like, okay. So that's good news. You've convinced some of our audience already. And if you register on the thing, we're going to give you one of Brad's books. He has a free ebook about how to wholesale. So we'll go into more detail, a little bit more story about how to do it and what to do it. And to get that, you just want to text right here. So you want to text MOD to 555-888. And then we're going to send you out, we're going to give you a call so you can experience what it's like to talk to a virtual professional. Plus, we're going to give you that free ebook. And if you register and sign up, we're giving you this process and this system. So we're giving away everything, right, Brad? I mean, he's adding massive value. And I think, how long do you think this will take to cause revenue for somebody who's listening, Brad?
Honestly, Dan, it could be pretty freaking quick because I keep going back, but I just had this conversation with one of my students. He goes, "Well, how long will this take?" And I said, "Hunter, honestly, you could go and you could pull the list today, tomorrow, and you could start calling the next day. You don't even have to wait to mail. You could start calling." And one of the things is, so they hire a virtual professional through you, Daniel. They get the system for $297 for free. They get a ton of bonuses with that. One of the bonuses, they can have a strategy session with my team where we'll walk through what their goals are and how they can hit their goals. And we'll talk a little bit about, the different coaching options that we have.
Yeah. Well, I think Tony Robbins put it best, right? He's like, if you want to play in the NBA, you go and find somebody who already has, and you ask them to coach you, right? The best in the world, they're out there, Brad. We have you, one of the best wholesalers in the world, sharing with our audience. And I just can't thank you enough, guys.
And I was the #1 Keller Williams agent in North America.
And you're kind of a stud, right?
I know a thing about realty too.
Yeah, just a little bit. And guys, we love your time. We love you listening to this stuff. We had a client I just talked to the other day who unsubscribed from these emails, and I'm like, and he's like, "Hey Daniel, I haven't heard from you in a while." I'm like, "Well, you unsubscribed, right?" So every week we try to bring somebody on that adds value, that brings kind of a different way of looking at things, so you guys can generate more revenue and stop using that low inventory, kind of excuse. Really, it's an excuse. We work in November and December. It's our best months. If it's low inventory, we find other ways to get listings. And that's what we're talking about today. And I'm going to do the text one more time because my man Edward needs it. If you text MOD, MyOutDesk, to 555-888, you get everything that we talked about. Plus, spending time with Brad. If you're interested in this lead generation idea, I think it would be very valuable. Brad, thanks for being here, man. What do you want to tell everybody to wrap this thing up?
Man, you know what? Not to get too deep, but life is short. This isn't a dress rehearsal. I've got a business that works for me. We're going to do 250 deals this year without my day-to-day involvement. I've built a business that works for me, not vice versa. And I can teach you exactly how to do that and create the life. Everyone deserves the freedom that I have and that you have, Daniel. And you can make it happen. It's all on your shoulders, and we're here to help you.
All right, brother.
So make it happen.
All right, guys. Thanks for your time. We'll talk soon.
Take care.